In the sweltering heat of July 1885, a frantic mother arrived in a small laboratory in Paris, clutching her 9-year-old son, Joseph Meister. The boy was a walking ghost, covered in 14 deep, bloody gashes from a rabid dog. In the 19th century, this wasn't just an injury, it was a slow-motion execution. Within weeks, Joseph would succumb to hydrophobia, a terrifying state where he would convulse at the sight of water, howl in pain, and eventually slip into a fatal coma. Standing before them was Louis Pasteur. He was a chemist, not a doctor, and the treatment he held was an experimental brew never before tested on a human. If he failed, he would be remembered as a monster who poisoned a child. If he succeeded, he would unlock the secret to immortality for millions. But the road to this moment began with a country doctor nearly a century earlier. In 1796, Edward Jenner sat in the English countryside, watching a world ravaged by smallpox, a disease so horrific it blinded and scarred those it didn't kill. Jenner noticed a strange pattern. Local milkmaids seemed to have a glowing porcelain immunity. They caught cowpox from their cattle, a mild illness that caused a few blisters and then vanished. Jenner decided on a move that would be unthinkable today. He took the pus from a milkmaid's blister and rubbed it into the scratches of an 8-year-old boy named James Phipps. Then he exposed the boy to deadly smallpox. The world held its breath. The boy didn't even flinch. Jenner had found the first vaccine, named after vacca, the Latin word for cow. But Jenner was a man with a key who didn't understand the lock. He knew it worked, but he had no idea why. The bridge from Jenner's luck to Pasteur's science was built on a series of beautiful mistakes. While studying chicken cholera, Pasteur's assistant accidentally left a culture of bacteria out on the lab bench while he went on vacation. When they returned and injected this spoiled, weakened bacteria into chickens, the birds survived. Pasteur's genius wasn't just in the observation, but in the realization. Jenner's cowpox wasn't a one-off miracle, it was a biological law. He realized that the human immune system is like an army that needs a training manual. By insulting the body with a weakened, crippled version of a germ, he was giving the body a rehearsal for a war it hadn't fought yet. He realized that to conquer death, you had to invite a tiny, harmless piece of it inside you. With Joseph Meister's life hanging by a thread, Pasteur put this theory to its most dangerous test. The treatment was a grueling 13-day psychological thriller. Pasteur had been drying the spinal cords of rabid rabbits, a process that slowly choked the life out of the virus until it was nearly dormant. On the first day, he injected Joseph with the weakest version. Day after day, the dosage got stronger, 13 injections in total. Each night, Pasteur paced his lab, unable to sleep, haunted by the image of the boy dying by his hand. It was a biological training camp. He was coaching Joseph's immune system to build a fortress before the real rabies virus could reach his brain. On the final day, he injected the boy with a dose so lethal it would have killed a grown man in hours. Joseph Meister didn't just survive, he lived to become the caretaker of Pasteur's Institute. Before Jenner and Pasteur, humanity was trapped in a dark age of biological terror. For millennia, we lived in a world of miasma, the belief that bad smells and divine wrath caused disease. Surgery was performed with blood-stained hands, and parents lived with the soul-crushing expectation that half of their children would die before they reached the age of 5. Smallpox, polio, and cholera were the great levelers that could turn a thriving city into a graveyard in a single summer. We were a species at the mercy of enemies we couldn't even see. The successful treatment of Joseph Meister was the big bang of modern medicine. It proved that vaccines weren't just a fluke of the cow barn. They were a scientific system that could be manufactured and scaled. This spark ignited a global revolution. Suddenly, the unseen killers had names, and humans had the blueprints to build shields. Today, Pasteur's legacy is measured in the billions of people who are alive right now, simply because of a needle. We have wiped smallpox, Jenner's old enemy, off the face of the earth. Polio is a ghost of the past in almost every country. We now have shields against over 20 life-threatening diseases, from measles to HPV. The most staggering transformation, however, is the fate of our children. In the mid-1800s, child mortality was a staggering 40%. Today, that number has collapsed to less than 4% globally. This is the single greatest victory in human history. Every time a child receives a routine shot today, they are part of a lineage that traces back to a milkmaid in England and a terrified chemist in a Parisian lab. Louis Pasteur didn't just invent a medicine, he changed what it means to be human. He turned us from victims of nature into the masters of our own survival.